Hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Music Iceberg. This is episode 3 and we are going to be going over tier 4. This research was definitely the strangest for me because in the other tiers I was used to having maybe like one weird search with disturbing images, things like that. But in this one we had quite a few, which I'm quite excited to get into, but this is where the series does take a very drastic turn, so if you weren't really okay with the ones before, you're definitely not going to be okay with the ones in this one and the later tiers. But enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off tier 4, we have White House, and they were an English band formed in 1980, and they're largely credited for the founding of the power electronic subgenre of industrial music. The group's founding member and also only consistent member was William Bennett, and he began as a guitarist for Essential Logic. He was known to say things like, "I often fascinated about creating a sound that could bludgeon an audience into submission." The group White House started performing live in 1982 with members Andrew Mackenzie and Stephen Stapleton, who is Nurse with Wound, mentioned in the last video. In 2009, Bennett claimed that his preeminent inspiration was Yoko Ono. He says that Yoko's amazing music was by far the biggest influence on me and White House in the formative years. White House specialized in what they call extreme electronic music. They were known for their controversial lyrics and imagery, which portrayed sadistic sex, rape, misogyny, serial murder, eating disorders, child abuse, neo-Nazi fetishism, and other forms of violence. White House emerged as earlier industrial acts such as Throbbing Gristle and SPK were pulling back from noise and extreme sounds and embracing relative, more controversial music genres. In opposition to this trend, White House wanted to take these earlier groups' sound and fascination with extreme subject matter even further. As referenced on the sleeve of their first LP, the group wished to cut pre-human states and produce the most extreme music ever recorded. In doing so, they drew inspiration from some earlier experimental musicians and artists, such as Alan Lucia, Robert Ashley, and Yoko Ono, as well as writers Marquis de Sade. Next, we have Samuel Beckett, and he was an Irish novelist, playwright, short story writer, theatre director, and a poet. He was a resident of Paris for most of his adult life, and he wrote in both French and English. His work offers a bleak, tragicom outlook on existence and experience, often coupled with black comedy and nonsense. It became increasingly minimalist in his later career, evolving into more aesthetic and linguistic experimentation. He is considered one of the last modernist writers, and one of the key figures in what Martin Elsing called the theatre of the absurd. His best-known work is 1953's play Waiting for Godot. Beckett was awarded the 1969 Nobel Prize Literature Award for his writing. Next, we have Passenger of Shit, also known as MC Bushpig, and they're an Australian musician who specialises in speedcore and breakcore. Speedcore, I believe, is just grindcore mixed with like techno, I'm pretty sure, but he also dwells in things such as horrorcore, hardcore, and noise. He's also known for his unapologetic everything in excess approach to electronic music, which he refers to as shitcore or sadcore. Fast beats, weird melodies, lyrics which are very questionable is what you can expect from him. And his bizarre themes carry on to his hip-hop work as MC Bushpig, and his noise-chaotic shrieking work goes into Doodle in a Cocoon. He's also a painter that dwells in things such as bodily harm and genitalia, and waste of the body is a recurring theme in nearly all of his art, and I believe he does all of his album covers himself, which I cannot show any of, but I am gonna show some lyrics and also some of the themes in his songs. And here are some cool lyrics which I found from a song called Wanking Shit for Life. Okay, this next one is called Mafusuen Orchestra. Mafusuen Orchestra. I'm not sure how to say that is my best attempt. Anyway, it's a musical group founded by Pier Apollo Zoppo, an Italian noise musician of the early industrial and electric power school of the 1980s. And he is one of the pioneers of Italian noise music. His work explored morbid subjects, which is why I can't show any album covers again, only the few pictures of his faces I can find. But if you're wondering what his albums dwell in, which I know you all are because you are all sick and twisted, they explore things such as extreme sex, perversion, Nazism, torture and disease. The sound was a brutal collage of noise, electronics, distortion, and very, very high-pitched vocals. The original albums were published on Zoppo's own label. The original phase of the orchestra ended in 1986, but reformed in 1997 to release new material. Zoppo had a brief return to music in 2008 to work on ambient music, but on June 16, 2012, he died. This is another name I have no idea to pronounce. Emil Buolo. That's how I'm gonna pronounce it. But his stage name is Ron Lezard. So Lezard, yeah, I'm gonna pronounce it like that. Okay, so Ron, also known as America's greatest living noise artist, was born July 5th, 1957. He's a prominent noise musician who primarily records for his own label, Triple R Records. He has collaborated and performed with many well-known noise artists, including Merzbow, Pain Jerk, Richard Ramirez from Black Leather Jesus, and Sonic Disorder. He frequently performs with a custom-made four-arm turntable named the Mintuli after its creator, who is a friend of the artist. He is also believed to have been the first one to apply the Layla Records term anti-record to musical records which have been treated, which would be things like melted, drilled, painted, etc., so that they become noise records. While something like this has been done by experimental artists for several decades, it wasn't until his release of a series of such records that these artists' pieces were widely called anti-records. This next one is DDV or Danny DeVos, and he was born September 20th, 1959. He's a Belgian artist whose work involves body art, performance art, and a fascination with true crime. Since 1979, he's done over 160 performances and made several sculptures about violence, crime, and murder. Since 1987, he's been corresponding with serial killers like Freddie Horan and Michael Bellon in Belgium and John Wayne Gacy in the USA. From 1988 until 2004, he was the chairman of the NICC, which is the first association of visual arts in Belgium. This is where he was in charge of the social statue of the artist. In 2005, he moved to Beijing in China to help develop a managed art farm for colleague artist Wim Devone. His latest piece, Diggin' for Gordon, inspired by Gordon Matter Clark, is performed at a secret location and can only be seen by the audience through a webcam. Club Morale is also a pioneer noise musician band. Apart from solo sound concerts, he also performs with Bum Collar, an improvisational noise band with Annie van Kerkeren on electronics, Marco Poloski on guitar, and Paul Menez engineering and brown tones. This next one is Eric Lund, and he started Boy Dirt Car in 1983 with Darren Brown. He released several LPs and cassettes. Lund left in 1989, signing it over to Mr. Brown. He then released his own music as E. Lund, or Eric Lund. He also published a book of poetry and woodblock prints. Between 1990 and 2004, he entered a vegetative state, included in art, writing, and releasing a few things under the radar. He says that there are, of course, numerous other recordings that he made and self-released in cassettes during the periods between 1986 and 1989, all of which are being catalogued and planned with a re-release. If you have any more information on him, please leave it in the comments below, because I found it quite hard to gather information on him, and also another one on this tier, and I'm sure as I get into the other tiers as well, I'm going to have the same problem. Mainly because not much is known about them, and also because it can be quite hard to find as we get into the more obscure ones. So if you have any information on any of the ones that I don't have information on, or if you just want to add some extra information on other ones, leave it in the comments below. Next, we have Monty Kazaza. Kazaza. Yep, that's how you say it, I'm pretty sure. And they're an American artist and composer, best known for their seminal role in helping shape industrial music through recordings with the London-based Industrial Records in the mid-1970s. During their early career, they were primarily based in San Francisco. They were credited with the phrase, "industrial music for industrial people." This was later used to encapsulate the record label and the artist representing it. The noise collages and experimental sound manipulation coming out of industrial records came to be known as the industrial music. He had built up an underground reputation as a particularly violent performance with its potentially dangerous and antisocial aesthetic. Research magazine's Industrial Culture Handbook described his work as an insanely outbreaks, thinly disguised as art events. The futurist Senenti show near the end of 1975 was heralded as a promo filer for Sex Religious Show. A giant statue of Jesus got chainsawed and gang raped into oblivion. This is the next one where I could hardly find anything on. They're labelled as Hands 2 on the Iceberg, and I looked on Bandcamp. I found a band called Hands 2, and then when I clicked on them, it took me to all these, these album covers look the same, so I was assuming that they were by them, but reading more into it, I don't know if this is just sort of a storyline towards each album, or sort of like a background, or if it's like a record label or something. I really have no idea. But I took a few images, what I found, and hopefully someone in the comments can fill me in on what this actually is. The reason I think I've done the wrong research mainly is because on their latest album, on the Hands 2 page, which I clicked on, it said first duo album together, things like that, so I'm not entirely sure, but as I said, if you have any insight or know what the Iceberg was referring to, then please leave it in the comments below. This last one is the new Blockaders, and they were one of the UK's most consistently defined and formally hostile experimental groups. Starting with their name, they combined a mass mythology with a militant anti-art, anti-music stance, which manifested itself in a series of oral documents. For all their lack of any public profile, they have had an absurdly disproportionate influence over the development of noise music. Again, this is one of the ones I couldn't really find that much on, apart from the fact that they are just one of the most well-received noise artists, I think, especially in this quote here that I found. They made a rare live appearance at All the Tomorrow's Parties Festival in December, and it was one of the most incredible half hours of my life. So, going from that, people that are into this music are obviously really into them, and I got nothing but respect for them if that is the case. But, again, couldn't find much because it is hard to when you get this deep into it, but I still tried my best. But, as I said, if you have any more information, leave it in the comments below. And that is it. Tier 4 is done. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it interesting. Leave a like if you liked it. And please subscribe. Currently at like 65. Hopefully we can get to 100 soon. That would just be insane. And also, make sure to check out my other Iceberg series that I'm doing. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode. Stay spooky.